recording button. Double tap to activate.
Hello, it is Whip Wednesday. Well, okay, it's Tuesday night, but I'm going to upload this for Whip Wednesday. We hope, right? My last video on my Premier Yarns haul, that's a 30-minute video. Took me 8 hours to upload. When I say I live way out in the country, I guess I do. That's on Verizon Wireless. Just saying, Verizon Wireless. Why does it take me 8 hours to upload a 30-minute video? Anyway, so you didn't come here to hear me complain about Verizon Wireless. You came to hear about yarn. And this video definitely will have yarn in it. Don't worry, my yarn-loving friends. This is Yarn Talk today. So, get your project, your knitting, your crocheting, whatever, your cross stitch, folding your socks, whatever it is that we do. Get a beverage, get some tea, get some coffee, come and hang out with me. Say hello if you want in the comment section. Let me know what you're working on. What do you do when we hang out? Okay, well, I think this is gonna be the 4th video on the Astoria tonal yarn. I did a Finisher Friday video going into all the details on the Love of My Life crochet shawl. It's my very first crochet shawl I ever did. I cannot take credit for the design. It is designed by Crystal from Bag O' Day. If you want the tutorial, it is free on YouTube. But I also told you the story in that video of why the Astoria tonal name was so special to me. So we're not going to tell that again. But basically it is a town on the Oregon coast that I visited. So I love this yarn. And because I knit and crochet, and I really do love knitting, you know I had to see what does it look like knit, right? What does it look like knit? So I did cast it onto the knitting needles, and I made a video about that too, about tonal yarns, right? And how they can be so unpredictable. But here is the skirt. It is almost done. The only thing I have left to do for Whip Wednesday is, you know it, whip stitch. Gotta whip stitch the waistband. But I thought people would want to see it. Is that my phone? Are we still recording?
Pause button.
No, we are still
Double tap to
recording.
activate.
Okay. If you don't know yet, hi, my name's May. I'm visually impaired and I love yarn and I love to knit and crochet. And I'm sure you hear it in the background sometimes. I use a screen reader on my phone and it'll read stuff out to you. I don't turn it all the way off because then it's too hard for me to figure out how to record. So, but I do turn the volume quite a ways down. But it does still talk randomly, make announcements, all that kind of stuff. So you will hear it in the background. So occasionally I hear it and think, oh my gosh, are we still recording? So anyway, this is the skirt knit up because I knew some people want to see it. And I knit the knit 2 purl 2 waistband, then I did stock and knit stitch. And then you know I did my crow knitting. And I still got mixed feelings about the color. I took a picture of this and my intent, if you don't watch my videos all the way to the end, I know not everybody watches every YouTube video all the way to the end, and that's cool. We got lives, we're busy, right? Time is valuable. But I do try to put pictures in the light at the end. If you don't know it yet, I am blinded by light. I am light sensitive. Light is painful to my eyes because my eyes can never adjust to daylight. I have a whole introductory video on that. And so that's why I record in a darker room, because then I can actually see a little bit and it's not uncomfortable. So that's why. But I think I will turn on the light for just a minute so you can see, just in case you don't stick around to the end. You don't want to watch it to the end for the picture, so that you can see the skirt. Okay, people can let me know when they watch it. Would you prefer to just wait till the end to see the pictures in the light? Do you want me to turn on the light for a minute in the middle of the video so you can see it in the middle? Let me know in the comments what works for you. I can do light for a little bit. I've lived in this sighted world my whole life. Yes, I was born this way. So here it is. So you can see it. It is supposed to be the grays and the blues of the Oregon coast. And as you know, I was not thrilled with this big dark patch. I got no idea if it's blue. I still don't know if it's blue or if it's gray. And then this is the crochet on the bottom. And I did crochet it. If you haven't watched my little videos on crow knitting, I did a YouTube short and I did a full video on it on how to crochet right off your knitting needle. So I'll bring that up close if you want so you can see that. That's what that looks like. When you crochet right off your knitting needles, that's what you're gonna get. As somebody who's visually impaired, I could bind off, right? And then I could take my crochet hook and I could pick up the stitches and I could start crocheting. And if that works for you, you do you. On this channel, we're all about people being adaptable, being creative, and doing what works for them. Okay, I'm gonna turn off the, you wanna see the shawl for a minute in the daylight, in the light, not the daylight, but the light of the room. Okay, I really do need to turn the light back off because light is super uncomfortable for my eyes. So, that's what the skirt looks like in the light. So you can see it. You can see where the crochet is. But anyway, I was talking about the crow knitting. Excuse me. Ooh. Ooh. Yeah, if you have good eyesight or it works for you or whatever it works, if you like to just bind off what you're doing with your knitting and then use your crochet hook and then pick up, by all means, whatever. But on this channel, I like to do things that work for me as somebody who knits and crochets by feel. Pick up and knit, or in this case, pick up and crochet, right, is more challenging for me to do by feel. So I just crochet. I showed you that in that video right off, and the YouTube short, right off the knitting needles. It's simple. It's easy for me. I'm all about here doing what works for you. When you have a disability, you have to adapt and you have to find ways to do things that are different, right? I wash my dishes by feel. I listen for cars when I cross streets. I do things differently. So I'm all about thinking differently all the time. And I love that. I think it helps me be creative. I think it helps me think about, what if I just crocheted, right? If you haven't watched my video on, oh gosh, I think it's called Celebration of Crafting Month, and it talks about my crochet journey. The whole reason, my sister's been trying to teach me to crochet since I was like 15, and it took me like 30 years to get it. But I knew because I love to knit skirts. If you don't know that yet, I love to knit skirts. This is a blue cable skirt with some seed stitch, and I did not design this. I can't take credit for it. I did not do the design on this. This is a design, I believe it's off of Interweave. Unfortunately, I can't figure out how to access my Interweave account anymore. I don't know what happened there. I should contact them sometime and see about my password. What happened? But I'm pretty sure this is an Interweave pattern. It's a very pretty blue skirt, and I love it. I should wear it more often. It is made with a chunky weight yarn, and so yeah, I can't take credit for it beyond, yes, I knit it, but I did not design it. So I love to knit skirts, and so when I started thinking more about designing my own skirts, some of the skirts that I did was this particular, it's another holly berry. I didn't design 3 skirts. They're all holly berry for some reason. I started designing, this one is knit in the Knit Picks, We Crochet, Stroll. Yes, I did it in fingering weight. Who knows why? I was like, let's make a whole skirt in fingering weight. But I kind of like it. It's fun. It just takes a long time to get all the way around. When you flare out this skirt, it takes a long time. But I did these little lace hearts and diamonds. I hope you can see that on there. They're lace, diamonds, and hearts, and I just love, I love designing this skirt. I had so much fun. Yes, it's frustrating when you design, especially when you're visually impaired. I have to rip out projects over and over and over. I'm designing a hat tonight and I just get the whole thing done and I just felt, so it's like a bucket hat. I just felt, you know what, that's too floppy. I gotta rip that out and scrap it. That's too big. That's too big. So when you design, you gotta do that some days. You do a lot of frogging, right? A lot of unknitting, a lot of frogging. But I love to design skirts. I love to knit skirts. And so after I was done designing this lace heart skirt, I worked on some other projects, but I really started thinking about what more I could do to my knit skirts. And that's when I started thinking, I've got to try crochet again, because I just knew I could do this other Holly Berry and the Knit Paisley Crochet Company worsted, where I did the white crochet trim. I knew that was possible. And that's when I started thinking about, if I can just learn how to crochet, then I can just crochet right off my knitting needles, which is also what I did in this skirt. And add that trim to a skirt. How fun, how pretty, right? Just like the Holly Berry shorts, just did the same thing that I do on a bucket hat or something. Just add some ruffles to the shorts. So that's really what I started thinking. Like, I love doing fun skirts. I just start picturing designs in my head. I do. I just start picturing stuff in my head. And I'm like, how can I make that? Right? How can I create that? And I can picture all kinds of things in my head, but I know I can't really do them with knitting. It's crochet is the answer. So when I did Crystal's Love of My Life shawl, I did it for a number of reasons. One, because I know Crystal can explain things in a way that a person who's visually impaired, who can't see, who's doing it all auditorily, can follow. She's amazing. She's a great teacher. So I knew I could follow her work. I was looking for something simple, and I was looking for a easy project that would help me to understand shaping and increasing and how it works with knitting versus crochet, right? I understand increases and decreases with knitting, but I don't understand it as well with crochet. And so I'm really wanting to, because I see these pointed shawls, right, with this is the 8 pointed shawl, that's the blue and the gray. And so I see those and I immediately think skirt head, right? Like even my shirt, I'm wearing like a shirt that's got, I don't know if you can see it, it's got like a high-low. Some people call it a high-low, some people call it a shark bite, whatever. But even my shirt's got the points. It's only got 2 points, but it's got points on the side, and it's got fringe. If you're blind or visually impaired, it's got fringe. It's black. So those kind of points on tunics and dresses and skirts, they've been popular in and out of style. I love them. I think they're fun. So immediately I'm like, I need to know how to take the points of a shawl, right, a crochet shawl, and put them on a skirt, right? Forget buying them. I could buy cheap products made from China, blah, 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 slave labor, you know, and I could do that. But why not make it? That's what I love about knitting and crochet. It's the challenge mentally of make it yourself, picture it and design it yourself. And so as soon as I start thinking about these pointed shawls and these pointed hems on dresses and things, I'm like, you gotta be able to do that with a skirt. You've got to. And so that's when I started thinking, when I was working on this shawl, I was like, yeah, now that you understand that shaping, right, how to do the points, and this is the shawl if you're blind or visually impaired, the shawl, I do try to describe things on my channel for other people who are blind or visually impaired, because I really want to encourage people who are blind or visually impaired to try knitting and crochet. You can do it by feel. It is tactile. So I was like, I gotta be able to do that. I've got to be able to learn to do from a flat shawl, right, from a flat shawl. Once you understand the shaping, I've got to be able to put that in the round. I've got to. And so that was a little bit of a challenge for me, but not too much to think about. And I know that there are lots of tutorials on ponchos that have the same style with the points. So I probably could have watched a few poncho tutorials and understood that a little better. But I was starting to understand it just from some of the blankets I'd made. the 6-pointed star blanket. I was understanding a little bit of how that worked. So I felt pretty confident that once I'd made that 6-pointed star by Sarah Satch Crochet, and once I made the pointed shawl, I thought, you know what, I can. The blanket's different because you start in the center. Excuse me. You start in the center of the blanket and work out versus working off the knitting needles. But I knew I could do it. I knew I had to do a little bit of mathing, right? Mathing. And I did do my mathing a little bit wrong because I'm new to it. But I just knew as soon as I start seeing crochet stitches, I immediately start thinking, how do I work that in the round? How do I put that on a skirt? How do I put that on a dress, right? How do I put that on a hemline? That's immediately where my mind goes. So I'm super excited that I managed to do that with the skirt and that I have a shawl, right? I can wear a top, then I can drape the shawl over my shoulders, and I can have a matching skirt. I'm super, super excited about that as a pair. I'd love to know what people think of this bizarre dark streak. Do you think it ruins the project too much? I honestly am colorblind and I've got mixed feelings about it. Part of me is like, just embrace it as life, right? Life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get. Forrest Gump. I watched that movie in the theater when I was a teenager, and I did love that movie when I was a teenager. So tonal yarns are like that, right? They're like that box of chocolates. You never know what's on the inside. That's just your tonal yarns. You're like knitting or crocheting away, and you're like, what? What happened? What happened? So part of me is like, embrace it as being that this yarn is supposed to be about the coast, and I've been on the Oregon coast. I lived in Portland, Oregon for 10 years. I've been to the coast so many times. And guess what? The weather there, super unpredictable. It's gonna be beautiful and sunny, and all of a sudden the storm comes out of nowhere, and I've been there during thunder and lightning. I've been there in days when you're out playing in the ocean one day or boogie boarding, and then boom, that within minutes is storming, and you're thinking, where did that come from? And so the weather can be super unpredictable. I've been out in boats off the coast of Oregon and California and Washington, and you're like, where did that wind come from? So part of me is like, you know what? That's a part of trips to the coast, right? That's a part of life, is that it just sort of throws stuff at you that you don't expect, that you don't know how to feel about. So part of me is like, just totally embrace that as being representative of the unpredictability of life. So part of me, this is a, if you don't know yet, the yarn is the Knit Picks We Crochet Hawthorne DK. It is 80% superwash Highland wool. It is not merino. And then 20% polyamide. But it's kind of a summery. I don't know. It feels like it's kind of got some summer vibes to that with the hem like that. So part of me is thinking, do I want to remake this skirt in like a cotton or a Cotlin blend? I love the Knit Picks We Crochet Cotlin. I do. So part of me is thinking, maybe I need to remake this skirt in a cotton linen or some type of summery blend. Not that you can't wear wool in the summer. You absolutely can wear a wool blend, especially when it's got this loose crochet. You can absolutely wear something like this skirt in the summertime on the coast or anywhere, right? Anywhere. But part of me was thinking I should remake this in a different weight, maybe even a different weight of yarn, maybe a different weight, maybe just a different fiber like that cotton linen, maybe a different color. Like, do I want to do it in the dark blue? I just got my Cotlin out in the Planetarium. This dark blue is called Planetarium. I got that actually to do one of these skirts, and then I started designing a crochet hat today. I'm like, oh, maybe you want to design a bucket hat, right? My brain kind of like, squirrel, right? Squirrel. It goes all over the place, all over the place. And so I'm like, oh, bucket hat, you need to design a bucket hat. So I didn't cast on for the skirt. Instead, I designed a bucket hat that I worked on all day and then ripped it out because it was too big. So that's the life of a designer, you know, somebody who works and creates things in your own head. That's life. So I started the hat again, but now I'm looking at this and I'm trying to decide, should I use the cotton to remake this skirt? It's a dark blue. Or should I try to find a different color? Cotton does have a lot of other colors. So maybe a more of a medium blue, or even more like I'll have to check the colors on there. And also see what I have in the house. Because, you know, I do have a mountain of yarn. But that is what was on my mind. That's what I want to share with people. And I thought, just briefly, we'd talk about how to even design, right, like a skirt. Do people want to talk about that? I'd be curious to know. If you watch my videos, do you knit skirts? Are you interested in the crow knitting stuff? You can totally watch my videos on that. And are you interested in sort of talking skirt design? Like if I remade this skirt in the cotton, would people want to see the pieces of it, like how I start my process of that? I could totally do a series on that. I'm just trying to pick out a color for it. I can't decide if I want to use this planetarium dark blue. I know I have cotton and ivy, which is a really dark green. I believe I have it in the house in Moroccan red, which might be too orange for me to wear. My mom says I cannot wear orange reds, especially near my face, maybe on a skirt. I don't know. So I'm feeling kind of ambivalent. Or I could choose a completely different color, maybe do a little more excavating in Yarn Mountain, and see what other colors I can come up with. But anyways, I don't know how many people have ever designed a skirt before, who have taken on that process. I love it. It's so fun for me. So I just do, if you hadn't seen it in other videos, I just do my knit 2, purl 2. For the stretch, I like a nice stretchy waistband. So I put in, and I did my waistband on a size 5 needle. And then I did go up to a 6 as soon as I got into the stockinette portion. And then went into a 7, and so which is 7 would be a 4.5 millimeter needle. And then I did the crochet in a 5 millimeter hook. So when you knit and crochet, when you want to, don't be afraid to play around with hook size and needle size. That's how you get flair. If you're looking at this skirt and go, yes, I did shaping. You can see I did increases in the hips. I did. There's hip increases there. You can see them. But I do more of my shaping by playing with hook and needle size, right? So the size 5 needle would be 3.75 millimeters. So I started with a 3.75 millimeter needle for the waistband, then went up to the 4 millimeter for the majority of the body, then went to the 4.5 millimeter needle to give it a little more flair before I went all the way up to a 5 millimeter crochet hook. And I'm even thinking about that. I'm like, could I have even gone up to a 5.5? Maybe that's what I want to do on my next one, because crystals, oh, I'm wearing it. I'm like, where's the shawl? I'm wearing it. Yeah. So that's funny. Crystal's shawl was done with a 5.5. So I'd get a little bit of a looser, open, drapier look if I did a 5.5. These are all the things. If you don't design your own work, definitely consider it. It is fun. It is so fun to just sort of let all this stuff go on in your head. So it's a little overwhelming too. It can be a bit much. It can, which might be why I was working on designing a bucket hat, because my brain was, you know, trying to decide what color and how to do it, and should I increase the hook size, and do I want to take that on again immediately? Do I want to do something else? I'm having so much fun learning crochet stitches. So much fun. So, and thinking about all the ways I can combine it with knitting. I'm like, ooh, and then that, and then that, and I can do a top, and I can do that, and I can do that on a skirt. So my mind's going in many, many places. But the brief rundown of the skirt is that, excuse me, I do my knit 2, purl 2 waistband. And then if you're wondering, I sew elastic. I probably lost my elastic, but I do have an elastic. Here's the elastic band. This is 1-inch knit elastic, and I sew that into my waistband. And so I wrap the elastic. I get the big rolls of it around my waist, figure out where I want it exactly. That's the fun thing with design too. You could put it high-waisted, above your belly button, right at your belly button, just below. You could do it way low on your hips. I got mine just below my belly button. That's where I like it. So that's where I put my elastic, and then I make it a little bit tight. I pin my elastic, and then I just do, because the elastic's going to go on the inside. The stitching doesn't have to be pretty, right? The visually impaired lady can just do her thing, right? This is just a basic running stitch. That's all I do. It does not have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be straight. It doesn't have to be tiny, neat stitches. This has got to be sewn on the inside of your skirt. So I measure as I go. So I figure out with the 1-inch elastic, right? So when you're working on your elastic casing, you kind of got to know by then, what elastic do I have? Am I going to use a 1-inch? Am I going to use a 3/4 inch? For me, with skirts and shorts, I like either a 3/4 or a 1-inch. I do have a lot of 1/2-inch for some reason. I think because it was cheap. But I don't put 1/2-inch in my waistbands. I just don't think it's got what I need. I'd probably just mostly keep it in stockings. But even then, I'm kind of leaning more to the 3/4 inch. So I don't know what I'm going to do with this giant tube of 1/2-inch elastic. I might still put it in some socks or stockings or something. But basically, you want to know, when you're working your casing, what elastic you're going to put in it. And so that when you know you're going to sew it in, right, your casing is going to cover it. You want to do your knit 2, purl 2, so it's a little bit wider than your elastic. So even when it's stretched, because when it's stretched, it's going to get thinner. But even when it's stretched, you want it to cover your elastic. And because I am visually impaired, and I have nystagmus and strabismus and all kinds of vision issues which keep me from seeing straight, I got different acuities in both my eyes. I don't have depth perception. My eyes don't work together. I can't sew straight. I can't see straight. I can't write straight. So I do what's called a turning row. I've showed it on my channel a few times, which is just the opposite. That's all it is. If you're doing knit 2, purl 2, you just switch it up for 1 row and you do purl 2, knit 2, and then you go back to knit 2, purl 2, and that creates a fold, literally a tactile ridge, a tactile fold in your garment. So when you can't see what you're doing, it doesn't matter. You can feel the seam. I'm all about creating things that are tactile, things that work for me. So that's what I do. And then we're going to sew the elastic, and I just use a whip stitch. Now when you want to do that, you want to turn your garment inside out, right? Inside out, inside out. And then what you want to do is you want to put your elastic. This is not hard. This doesn't have to be hard at all. So your garment's inside out, and then you want to feel your waistband casing, and you want to put the elastic below the fold, right below the fold, and then you just fold down the top of the casing. It does create a little bit of a thick waistband. It does. So if you're not into that, you might have to do something else for your waistband or not. You can tell this is a bulky wet yarn, so the yarn's thick and the waistband is really thick on that one. So it does create a little bit of bulk. if that bothers you. It doesn't bother me. I don't mind it. But then you just literally, once you put that down on the bottom half, then you just literally feel, right? You created a tactile folding ridge that's why you do that. And then you just literally fold it over the top, right? That's it. And then you get out your blunt needle. Now, what I do is I like to use the same yarn that I did with my project, okay? And that way I don't have, even though it's going to be on the inside, we're going to be sewing on the inside. It is yarn, it is knit, and so it still could show through, especially if you're visually impaired. You might have yarn sticking through that you don't know. So I just use the yarn from my project. We are playing a little bit of yarn chicken. This is what we got. This is it. This strand of yarn. This skirt took 3 full hanks of the Hawthorne DK, and then I went ahead and used, when I made the shawl, I showed it a few weeks ago. It had this little ball. I don't know what it was, maybe a 5th or a 6th of a hank left. So I just used that for the bottom. I just added it on and went another couple rounds, right? I wanted to use that up. I didn't want that loose little ball rolling around, getting lost, getting separated. So I just added it on. And this strand of yarn that I have is what I have left of that. So I'm going to do what I can to just use this to sew in. Hopefully we don't run out, but we are playing some yarn chicken. But it is just a waistband. It is on the inside. So if I gotta, piece it together, and there is more of this yarn, I just really don't want to untie and undo another hank. I did buy a 10-pack. I've used 6. I got 4 left. So if I got desperate, right? If I got desperate, I could undo another hank and steal some out of there. I'd rather not, just because I'd rather leave those hanks together till I'm ready to use them. And also because then when I start my next project with whatever it is, right, it's just easier to know how much yarn did I use with this project or that project if you're not stealing off of it. But it won't be that much for a waistband, so I will be okay. But that's just what I do. Even though it's going on the inside, I'm a little bit worried, a little bit paranoid about it showing through. So that's what I do. And then I just whip stitch it. And whip stitching, it's easy. It really, really is. Whip stitching is not hard. We're going to just thread the needle, tie a knot in there, and then I put a little stitch marker in there so I know exactly where I want to start the very next knit to, right there. So I'm going to start right there probably, and then when you whip stitch, I go in from the inside of the skirt on the stockinette side, and then stitch up to the knit 2 purl 2, and then you go back to the stockinette, stitch up to the knit 2 purl 2 waistband. Yeah, that's all that I do with whip stitching. It doesn't have to be, it's on the inside, so it doesn't have to be a super fancy stitch, right? It's going to be on the inside. You do, if you're blind or visually impaired, I stop like every couple of stitches and make sure that I still have my ribbing lined up, that it's still straight, because more than once I've done a waistband and I start making my stitches super tight and I pull it too tight to where I'm pulling the fabric over. I'm pulling it over, and then the ribbing is no longer lined up, and so the whole waistband gets a little bit of a slant to it, and then I have to just rip it out and do it all over again, and that's no fun, right? Why do that? Why? So I've learned now to just make whip stitching a slow process. Just feel it. Just do a couple stitches, stop and feel it. Do a couple stitches, stop and feel it. So yes, whip stitching should be fast for many people if you can whip stitch by feel and you can see well enough to if you can whip stitch with your eyes and you can see what you're doing, I believe it's going to go a lot faster for you. But you can whip stitch by feel, but you are going to want to check your stitches every couple. You're going to just literally want to stop and feel and make sure that your ribbing, you're going to be able to feel the ribbing on the top and on the inside, and you're going to want to make sure that those are still lined up straight so that you aren't pulling it tight into the side, or it will get that look to it. Even on the outside, it will have a slope, it'll have a slant, and you don't want that. So just do that. Yes, it'll take me probably hours, probably several hours to do it that way, and you know, where
Kevin,
somebody who
I
can
left the
see
outside
what
light
they're
by the
doing,
downstairs garage on by accident. I will shut it off tomorrow.
it would, you know, not be as time consuming. But anyways, I think that's all that I have to say about that. I hope that was helpful for somebody out there. If that's helpful for anybody, then hey, I'm good with that. That's what I'm here for, to talk people through design process, to talk people through who are visually impaired, who are struggling to see, to think, to consider designing, to not be afraid to design, and to not, you know, to consider new techniques. So I hope this helps somebody out there today. So anyways, and you know what I like to say, creativity is for everybody. Whether you see or you see like me, or just not so much and not in the daytime, or you don't see at all, creativity is for you. And whether it's knitting or crocheting or sewing or quilting or beading or sculpting or painting or whatever it is that you do to express yourself, today is a great day to craft and create. And please feel free to leave me a comment, ask me a question. If it has to do with knitting or crochet or visual impairments, I might know. I might not, because I don't know everything about knitting and crochet. I'm still very, very new to some of this. There's a lot that I don't know. But let me know if you like working with tonal yarns. Let me know, do you like to make skirts? Let me know, do you like to design skirts? Have you done the crow knitting thing before? Are you interested in doing it? I'd love to hear from other people what they're doing, what their thoughts are on this. What do you think about the big dark patch in the middle? Oh my gosh. Yeah. So if I remember, I'm going to try to get a picture of this in the light laying on the bed for you at the end so you can see it. But for now, I think that's the video for tonight. So, bye-bye for now.
Pause.
Okay, as I said, I'm blind by the light, but I know that most people like to see yarn and designs and projects in the light, and especially most people who are having vision issues need light. They have night blindness. So here you go. Here's the skirt, here's the top and the waistband. You can see the colors. I would love to hear what people think. I'd love to hear what color you think I should do this in. I am seriously thinking about reworking it. And I would love to hear your thoughts on what color, what yarn, what fiber. I do think cotton is what I'm leaning towards, which is also a DK weight, which would mean I could keep it the same stitching. For me, I did 112 stitches on the waistband. So I divide it in half. I work on 2 circs, which means that we have 56 stitches per side. But you do whatever works for you, right? That's what we're all about here. You do you. And if you want to see the blue skirt that I did not design, but I believe comes off of interweave, here it is, and it has a huge waistband with some big elastic. It's a chunky yarn, so it does give it some bulk. You got some seed stitch, right? You got some cool seed stitch going on the panels. Here you go. You got some seed stitch, and then you got cables going on. Unfortunately, you can, oh my gosh, I am not good at joining my yarns. That is so, oof. This was an earlier project that I made, and you can literally feel this big bulge where I join my yarns. I've got to get better at that. That's something I struggle with, is how to join yarns in the middle of knitting and not have it leave something so obvious that even I can feel it. So, but you can see where I work the increases on the blue skirt.
Your phone's almost out of space. Tap to see some quick ways to free up space and keep your phone running smoothly.
You can see where I work the increases on the blue skirt. And you'll be able to see where I worked my increases on the hips of my Astoria tonal blue and gray skirt. I just do knit one through the front and the back. It makes a little bit of a noticeable seam, but hey, manufactured garments, guess what? They got side seams too. So if you have an increase that you like to work, again, you do you. Whatever increase you like, whatever's easy for you. But knit one through the front and the back is what works for me. And that allows it to flare out for the hips. So, alrighty. There it is. There's a close-up. Thanks so much for listening. Bye-bye.